Hi guys, Mr. David here. So there are a lot of really interesting jobs out in the world. Take mine for example. I get to read silly books with silly voices, do arts and crafts, and teach fun activities to kids. I love my job, and I can't believe it took me so long to find it. But in finding this job, I had a lot of other jobs working in kitchens at fast food restaurants, selling newspapers, selling insurance, working customer service, and even working as an actor. Now, along the way, I learned a lot, but I also met a lot of interesting people with interesting jobs. You know what? I want to share them with you. I want you to meet my friends and find out about their interesting jobs and what they did to get those jobs and what you can start studying if you want to do that in the future. Does that sound good? So, over the next few weeks, join us as we get to talk to my friends and find out about their really interesting jobs. I hope you enjoy. I love learning about science. I find it fascinating. And I've never gotten to do a job where I get to do science experiments or anything like that other than working here at the library. So I was so excited to get to sit down with my friend Scott, who is a clinical microbiologist, and learn more about his job. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, guys, we're here with Scott Dombroski. So, Scott, to begin, why don't you tell everybody what your job is?
Well, I am a clinical microbiologist, is the term. I work for the Arkansas State Health Department in clinical microbiology and bioterrorism. That's my title. That's what I do.
It's a good long title, yeah. So you said clinical microbiology. Is there another kind of microbiology that's not clinical?
Sure. And that's actually, I started off in, I guess you could call it industrial microbiology if you'd like. It's quality control.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a couple positions where I work for bigger companies that um, produce goods, and it's my job to make sure that those goods that they produce aren't contaminated with microbials. So
Okay.
they have me, kind of testing samples of their product to make sure that they're good and safe for the public to use.
Okay.
Um, so there's industrial and there's clinical, and clinical is, hospital kind of work, working with patients and things like that.
So when somebody has a test done at the doctor's office and they need to send it to a lab, you're who gets it to help run the tests that actually figure out how the test comes out positive or negative?
For the most part, usually you'll go to your primary healthcare provider, and if they think that you have a bacterial infection, they will take a sample, which will go to a hospital lab, and that hospital lab will analyze your sample and what they think may or may not be a bacterial infection. And I really don't come into play a whole lot unless it's an unidentifiable to the hospital bacteria. And if it's a bacteria and they get it and they can't figure it out for whatever reason, they send it to me as kind of like last line to be like, what kind of bacteria infection is this? And how can we get you healthy as soon as possible?
So you're kind of like a detective in the world of science.
Basically, a little bit like a detective. I would almost call myself like a middleman between hospitals and the CDC.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So how long have you been working as a microbiologist, a clinical microbiologist, or
uh,
in general altogether?
Sure. I've been in clinical microbiology for about 6 years now. Um, and I have about 10 years total experience in the microbiology field. So I spent about 4 years doing what I was talking about earlier with industrial microbiology. And then I moved over to the health department, and I've been working with the health department in clinical microbiology and bioterrorism for about the past 6 years.
Okay. So, what all did you have to study for your job? Like, I guess it would be a lot of science classes, but what were the main areas or main classes you had to study?
Sure. My actual degree, I have a bachelor's of science in biology.
Hmm.
Um, but I took some microbiology courses in college, as well as basically the entire gamut of biological studies. Actually, if I'm being honest, most of what I studied in college was neuroscience,
Sure.
and I just so kind of happened to fall in to the career of microbiology. And as soon as I started, I loved it, and I was like, "This is where I need to be." And I remember really enjoying my microbiology courses in college.
Hmm.
And so when a job opportunity came up where they were like, can you do this? Are you able to handle uh, these jobs and these protocols? I was like, yeah, I can do that. And the rest is history.
All
I've
right.
loved it ever since.
So you mentioned neuroscience. I've heard that on TV shows and people with a neuroscience degree. Is it all just the workings of the brain, or could you define it a little bit for us?
Sure. The specific project that I was working on at the time, like my if you want to call it like my undergraduate study that I was working on was brain development, basically.
Hmm.
And what we were testing when I was in college was the effects of neonatal pain on brain development,
Okay.
which is basically like when you have children that are born prematurely or under harsh conditions. um, does the pain that they have to deal with, as far as like getting blood drawn every day, and maybe having tubes, for
Hmm.
breathing, does that affect their brain development in the long run? And that's
Okay.
basically what our study was.
That's really interesting.
It
All right.
was.
So, with your job of microbiology, what is your favorite thing about your job?
Um, I really enjoy. Uh, it's almost exactly like you said earlier. It's being a detective. I
Hmm.
really enjoy the unknown and going in there, getting my hands, dirty. I guess you
Sure.
could call it. Not really dirty because I'm wearing gloves. I stay
Right.
clean. Um, but I like to be in the biosafety hood. I like performing tests. I like uh, just the act of like um, normal every kind of day biological testing.
Sure. Sure. That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Sure.
So now we talked about your favorite thing. What is the probably the toughest thing? Now, this doesn't mean your least favorite. Just this is just the toughest thing that you have to do at your job.
Um, it's not necessarily that it's tough, but there's a lot of protocol that I have to follow
Hmm.
because my own personal safety
Sure.
is obviously paramount. So I want to make sure that everything I do is in conjunction with my SOP, which is
Hmm.
a standard operating procedure. It means
Sure.
basically the rules that I have to follow to keep myself and my colleagues safe.
Sure.
Um, so it's not that it's the worst part. It's just like it's 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 the most kind of demanding part in the sense that you always have to be thinking about, am I doing this correctly, in a way that's going to keep myself and my lab safe.
Like how to properly put on and take off gloves, masks, how to properly wash hands, and so you don't track anything into the lab, stuff like that.
Absolutely, and it's
Okay.
little things like that that people don't generally think about. Like there is a correct way to take off your gloves. There is a correct way to wash your hands, and just things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone was interested in pursuing a career of microbiology, of clinical or industrial, uh, what uh, what advice would you give them?
Um, Stay focused in school. That's a very important. It's
That's
very
important
important
for
advice.
a lot of things.
Absolutely. And I know it sounds like, like something that you should just know. It sounds like common knowledge, but like stay focused in school. Um, like I said, my degree is in general biology,
Hmm.
and I was still able to pursue a career in microbiology, um, even with just a regular biology degree.
Sure.
Um, uh, look out for potential jobs that you could have. Like, that's kind of your responsibility to pay attention to what's out there and what's available. Um, I would also highly recommend that people get involved in some sort of um, study or project outside of their normal curriculum
Sure.
in college. Like I was saying earlier with my neuroscience, I got involved with Children's Hospital, and I was working kind of in conjunction with them. And that's what you want to do, is you want to make sure to have a project that you can focus on, to where you can get kind of like that real life experience of working in
Sure.
a lab, before you're even there.
So let's go back even farther. How old were you when you first really got interested in science?
Ooh, I was extremely young.
Sure. Yeah.
When I first got interested in science, I'll say that I was probably in second or third grade,
Hmm.
and I was obsessed with the Titanic. Like when I was in second or third grade, they had just discovered the
Sure.
wreckage site of the Titanic.
I
Um,
remember that, where they had that sub go down and then they saw it on camera and they were like, "We have
Alvin.
found the Titanic." Yeah.
Yeah, it was this little sub was called Alvin, and it was headed up by an oceanographer named Dr. Robert Ballard. And I remember my third grade class wrote him a letter, and he actually
Wow.
replied to us, um, and thanked us for our interest in his studies and thanked us for everything. And I remember him sending us like an autographed copy of like the book that he wrote, like about the whole discovery of the
Sure.
Titanic wreckage. And he was just very welcoming and very like um, encouraging. And so so for a while I was very interested in oceanography. Uh, and then I kind of realized that that's not exactly what I wanted to do.
Sure.
um, and I kind of moved on from there to marine biology, and then I just kind of ended up where I am. Yeah.
Sure. All right. Well, so is there, so you talked about the Titanic and Alfie and finding the Titanic. Do you have like just any random facts about the Titanic science wise that you still remember that you're like, this is amazing? This is stuck with me.
um Not anything necessarily like specifically, but
Sure.
I just remember thinking like it is so awesome that we have been able to somehow find where this wreckage is, because
Sure.
it's miles under the surface. And and nobody knew like exactly the coordinates of where it sank.
Mhm.
And once it started sinking, it has miles underwater to you know kind of find its final place.
Sure.
So I was kind of awestruck by the idea that like humans could somehow find out where this happened and then go revisit it, almost 100 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when thinking about going for a microbiology degree career, just that field, other than the typical biology classes, is there anything else that you would say, hey, if you're interested in doing this as a job, maybe look at this type of class, or read this type of book, or get interested in this type of thing? Is there anything like that that might help someone with the field or with the job that is little to the left of science?
Sure. Well, with science, the main thing is just to be like inquisitive, like
Mm-hmm.
just to want to know answers and want to know correct answers.
Sure.
And by correct answers, I don't necessarily mean what you want to hear, because there are plenty of studies out there where you have one hypothesis and you think that something's going to go one way, and then you do a study and you find something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the whole point of science is accountability and reproductivity. So
Right.
you want to be able to reproduce your findings, and that goes for anyone. One of the main things of science is being they call it being peer reviewed,
Mm-hmm.
and that means that basically you should be able to write down exactly what you did, because this is very important. It's not science if you don't write it down.
Right.
Um, Write it down exactly what you did, and other laboratories should be able to easily produce with your notes the same conclusions that you came to in your study.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of science is, you know, it either works or it doesn't. And if it works for you and nobody else can reproduce those same results, then you might want to go, rethink your hypothesis. And that's,
Right.
it's the beauty of the scientific method.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Was it Neil deGrasse Tyson said the beauty of science is it's true no matter what you believe?
Absolutely. It doesn't care what you think or what your opinions are on things. Science will science, and it's going to do what it does. And that's the beauty of it, is that it should be absolutely reproducible by other people, and there's a level of accountability there um, that you should always kind of stick to.
Now, when studying science in general, is there kind of an element of history with it, because you're having to look back at the past scientists and what they did and their methods? Is there kind of like a little bit of you being a mini historian in the way of science?
Oh, absolutely. It's hard to be a scientist without having a few favorite scientists. It's like
Okay.
it's almost like a sports team, like kind of in that sense. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous,
Oh no.
but everybody has to have someone to look up to, and at the end of the day, uh, everyone is standing on the shoulders of someone else. You're constantly building on knowledge that we've gotten throughout the years. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do today if it weren't for Louis Pasteur. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he is one of the grandfathers of microbiology, because of what he learned, and what he was able to teach us through his findings.
I mean, hey, we wouldn't have just shelf stable milk if it wasn't for pasteurization.
That's a
So,
fact.
that's about all I know about Louis Pasteur is pasteurization.
I
So,
mean, it's his namesake, so it makes sense.
well, other than Louis Pasteur, who would be in your Hall of Fame of scientists? If you had just a wall of your favorite scientists, whose pictures would be on that wall?
You say that, and I wish that I had this prepared, because I actually do have a wall of like my favorite scientists. Um, there would be Louis Pasteur is
Mm-hmm.
on there. Robert Koch is on there. Um, let's see, Rosalind Franklin,
Okay.
who is one of the pioneers of DNA technology. Um, I gotta give a shout out to my boy Bill Nye, because he spoke to me as a child. He
Yeah.
he is what he made science cool. He made it okay to be inquisitive, and to want to learn, and want to you know uh want
Well,
to
he
figure out
made
everything.
science
You
a
know,
cool, approachable thing. And he wasn't an actor just saying, hey, science is cool. He was an actual working scientist and still is.
Yes, and he made it approachable, is exactly what
Yeah.
you said, because I understand that science can be very, very, very intimidating sometimes. But if you just approach it, with the right head, you can accomplish anything.
Right. I mean, they're making discoveries in science every single day. And so,
Absolutely.
which is, I mean, we've been on this earth for how many years and we're still discovering things.
At least 12.
It's amazing. Yeah.
We've been here at least 12 years.
Oh, of course. So let's go back again to childhood. Big thing for a lot of kids early into science are doing, fun little experiments like, microwaving Ivory soap and seeing it expand and doing that, or baking soda and vinegar and making a volcano.
That's what I was going to say. When I was growing up, it was all about the volcano.
Yeah. I was going to see if there were any experiments that you remember from your childhood that you were like, yeah, science.
As far as the ones that I've personally done, I did a lot of I did some growth experiments with plants, seeing if they reacted. And I know this sounds silly on the front end, but seeing if they reacted to different types of music. As
I've
far as
heard about things like that. Yeah.
I did some studies with that. I did some physics studies with skateboarding, actually, in my high school days. I think the fun experiments are like chemistry 1 in college, when they they'll dip the banana in the CO2 and smash it on the table, or they'll have a balloon filled up with helium and they'll make it explode,
Sure.
The ones that are just kind of magical to watch, and it's stuff that we all understand and have understood for a long time, but because we're human, they still have that kind of,
yeah, that hold on us, that sense of awe.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I kind of have danced around this one, and so you may have already said it, but what is your favorite thing about science? The thing that makes you just, every day you wake up and you're like, yes, I get to do science, kind of because of this.
I love that it's ever changing.
Mm-hmm.
I love that there's no stone tablet of science. There's a saying that's been going around lately that says the only thing that can refute science is better science. And I really appreciate that saying.
Sure.
Because it's the truth. Nothing on this earth is completely infallible. Mm-hmm. Things that we think we know, like if you look back 100 years and ask a scientist then, what they think about a certain subject, we could have by now completely disproven that and completely proven them wrong. But at the time, that's the information that they had to go off of, and that's what they knew. So it's ever changing. It's always progressing. And the whole point of it is to be better and for us to be able to better understand the world around us.
Well, I mean, going back even 10 years ago, if you had told a physicist that we were going to find the God particle, they would be like, no, it's just an idea, but we have no proof of it. And then lo and behold, we discover it.
Absolutely. And can we have a moment of silence for Pluto? Because when I was in school, Pluto was a planet. Mm-hmm. And it's no longer considered a planet, That
it goes back and forth. There are some scientists who are still going, no, it's a planet. And there is a wonderful picture book that, since we're friends, someday I'll loan to you,
sure.
called "The Day Pluto Got the Call," and it's all from Pluto's point of view and talking about, oh, I'm a planet like these, and then gets told by Neptune, hey, you're not really a planet. And then he gets a call from NASA going, yeah, we've made the call. You're not a planet.
Oh.
He goes planet to planet, and it teaches about the other planets, but it's Pluto going, well, yeah, you have this, but so do I, just a lot smaller. And the moral of this book is at the end, the sun says, well, you might not be a planet anymore, or maybe you are, but people are talking about you. And that's what's important. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So poor little Pluto had to find out from Neptune first?
Yeah, it's kind of like,
couldn't you even get a call straight from the source?
Well, it's been a while since I read the book. Maybe I'm flipping it, but it's a good book. So I am out of questions. I thank you so much for joining us today. I hope it wasn't too painful for you.
Absolutely not. I love what I do, and I love talking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, we have been friends for many years now, and I enjoy hearing your stories about work and about what you do, because it fascinates me, because I know a little bit about science on the edge. I can fake my way through a science conversation, but I like hearing of true scientists doing good work. So
well, you've done a great job of it today.
What was that?
I said you've done a great job of it today.
Hey! All right. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. All right. I'll see you later.
Take care.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation tonight with Scott. I have known Scott for years. He is such a good friend, and I really enjoy talking with him about his interesting job as a microbiologist. It just fascinates me, the world of microbiology. So I'll make sure to put below the names of all the scientists that we talked about tonight, so you can research them on your own and learn more about them. Now, next week's video, we talk to my good friend Lewis, who works for Universal Studios Orlando as a master rigger and, I believe, electrician and carpenter and so many other things. So you guys make sure you come back and check that out. I'll see you then. Bye.